Hi, I'm Lauren Hofstatter. I am a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida, a PhD student in clinical sexology, and a relationship and intimacy coach throughout the world. I got into this out of need for the Jewish community. I've been a therapist for many years, and I initially started off with children and families, and I started noticing more and more that, not necessarily even the intimacy piece, more so the relationship piece was lacking, whether it be between spouses, whether it be between parent and child, whether it be between friendship. Like, it's just, I don't know what's going on, but it's just people are stopping to learn how to talk to each other in a way that each other can hear.
Cassie, when you have a chance, also you take like one or two candid pictures. Okay. So let me ask you: would you say there's such a thing as too much communication within a marriage? Could that ever be a thing?
Um, could over communication be a thing in a marriage? I think it could, in the case of like, it depends on where you're holding in your marriage also. Like, if you're married for like a week, you don't want to start like, I don't know, ripping off this band-aid and like unleashing your whole, it's a little, you have to like, especially in the world that we live in the frum world, where typically, your first, real boy girl relationship or male female relationship is marriage or is dating. You don't want to just like go out there and just start like screaming from the rooftops all your things. I do think that there's a place for it. There's a world where, at some point you should be able to be fully open with your spouse. I'm married for 20 years. I've been with my husband for a long time. Like, I tell him I'm not afraid to say anything to him. Like, there's nothing that I could really say that would, so at some point I don't think you could over communicate, but I think initially, if you're not kind of like taught how to speak to your spouse in a way they can hear, or a friend or your child or whatever, it's a problem. I don't, yeah. So in that case, yes, you could over communicate, but you could work towards not.
Fair. So there's a concept that people discuss, like in regards to marriage, which is the concept of fight nice. What does it mean to fight nice? How do you fight nice? And if you just had a fight, how do you look back on it and say, like, was that a nice fight or was that not such a nice fight?
Right. So fighting nice to me means talking, not being, not saying things that are mean, like making sure that you're coming to your spouse, or again, anyone. I'm just using spouse as an example because it's what I work with a lot. You're coming to your spouse with the reminder that like, no, like, we still love each other. It's okay. Like, we can say things to each other. Like, constructive criticism to me is fighting nice. When you're just being critical to be critical, that's not fighting nice. Like, that's a very clear demarcation. If you're just throwing things at your partner just to be mean, why? Like, what's the point? Why?
So to follow up on that, if where's the and sometimes a person can lose their cool and they don't mean it in the moment. So obviously that's not fighting nice, but without even being mean necessarily, just raising voices, raising temperatures, getting aggravated. Is there any room for that?
Yeah, I can tell you right now, yes, there is room for big emotions. I'm not saying like, let's shut down all of our big emotions and only be flat and have flat affect all the time. Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying. But learning how to have emotions in an appropriate way, meaning even if you're losing your cool. I've told married adults, like, say to your wife, I'm going to lose it. Can I take 5 minutes to just take a breath? Like, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to keep like going back at each other over and over again. It's not good. At some point, you have to take a pause, I think, when it comes to such big emotions. Meaning, big emotions don't only have to be anger. Big emotions could be, I'm extremely happy. Great. But like, learning how to kind of balance like that in a normal way. Do you know what I'm saying? Again, everything has to be in moderation, including good feelings. You know what I mean? All those things have to also be in moderation.
Excellent. For the next question, try not to be answering me.
Okay.
Like as if I'm not here. As if like a question just popped into your head and you're answering the question.
Okay.
Great. Um, okay. Is it possible for a relationship to be ruined ever by only one side, or does it always take two to tango?
That's a hard, so,
Take your time.
yeah. I've seen very seldom cases where when it comes to relationships, meaning husband and wife, spousal relationships, that it didn't take both people to do something. Meaning a lot of times what I get is a broken foundation to begin with. Meaning like how do you build a tower, meaning like your relationship, on a broken foundation to begin with? If you haven't worked on it, that's part of the biggest issue. That's why, I try to promote like premarital counseling and all these things, because you're getting married, you're kind of like thrown into this on both ends, meaning the husband is thrown into this like role of a husband and the wife is thrown into like all these wife things. They don't know each other as well as they should. They don't, meaning even if you're together for 2 years, it doesn't matter. Like until you live with somebody, you don't know them. And in our culture, we don't do that. So fine. And you're thrown into all these things. There's all these expectations that nobody's talked about. Like we're just using like the expectations that we learned on the street. So now I forgot the initial question. Okay. So I think I have had cases where really it was, the only time I've ever had a situation where it took one to tango was when I didn't hear both sides, if that makes sense. Like I was only seeing the husband and the wife didn't want to. They ended up getting divorced. Didn't work out. And they were game. It didn't matter at that point. Meaning I didn't mean it that way, but you know what I mean? Yeah, cut that out. Did not mean that like game didn't matter. They do. Everyone matters. I'm just saying that the only time I've ever seen where it took one to tango was when one partner wouldn't come. One partner wouldn't step forward and take ownership. One partner wouldn't, and then it typically falls apart because I think it always takes two. Now that I really have to think about it, I think it always takes two. Even if one partner is 2% and the other is 98%, there's always like something. That's typically what I see.
Fair enough. That's interesting that you have like Gentile clients.
A bunch.
That's so interesting.
I mean, because I started out not
Specifically.
Yeah. Right.
That's very fascinating.
Mm-hmm. And they're having the same issues. That's what's crazy. Like this is not a Jewish, like from Jewish Orthodox issue. It's a issue everywhere.
So let me actually, before I go to the next question, bounce off something that you said. You said about you can be dating someone for a bunch of years, but moving in together just shifts the whole dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about? In other words, we can even have people, especially in the secular, that live together, but they're not married. What is it about the word marriage, about the commitment that just can just shift the entire paradigm, that just can explode something that's been working so beautifully, give or take, for 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. There is something even in the Gentile world about the sanctity of marriage. They do have their own, view on that and why that's special. To me, the concept of living together, why does that make like a whole different shift, would be you're like picking up the socks and doing the laundry and making the dinners and washing. Like it's just different. You're using the same bathroom. I don't know. It's just so different. What the shift is in terms, like once you get married, why is it different? I think that there's very few people that are going to say, I think, this world is hard. That's also the thing. Like there is still something to be said for the sanctity of marriage, even in the Gentile world, meaning I have clients from, all different religions, really. And there is something to be said for that sanctity of marriage. I always forget. I have one client. I forgot what religion she is, but they're Jehovah's Witness. And they believe you cannot get divorced. It's not an option. No divorce. Unless there's infidelity involved. So they're just like, he's just like sitting in this marriage, like trying to figure it out. But like, and he's not doing anything. He's just like, it's just, you're just like kind of stuck there. It's interesting. And I don't know where they got it from. I don't know if it's like, I don't know what Jehovah's Witness, I don't know if it's like it's not the Old Testament. We believe in the Old Testament. The Old Testament's the Torah. So I don't know what it is. I don't know what they added in, but it's interesting. And there's so many different versions of it. It's like, I didn't even know about this till like 6 months ago. No, maybe more, maybe like a year when I started getting more exposed.
Well, that would beg the question: is it possible to really make any two healthy people work?
Yeah. Two healthy people?
Yeah, so
Sure.
emotionally healthy, mentally healthy. Now, even though, let's say in the regular, if they were to go on a first date, we would say no. But with enough help and enough guidance, you can technically put any two people together that are healthy emotionally.
Not any two. There is something to be said for personality differences and, you know, different, meaning,
I'll tell you, it'll play itself out very strongly in a case where someone changes. Now that they change, now I'm essentially married to a different person. I'm not married to the person that I married. Now, people can argue that that's going to happen, guaranteed,
yeah.
automatically, within the course of 20, 30, 40, 50 years. You're going to be a
I mean, I
different
hope it
person.
does, by the way. I hope it happens. Meaning, like, I've had this happen before where a couple will come to me and be like, this is not the person I married. And I look at them and I'm like, I really hope not. You're married for 10 years. The checklist that you had with all the check boxes that you wanted for your spouse, those should have grown. He should have grown. You should have grown. It should have been different. Like, you should, that's if you're expecting that the boxes at 19 are going to be the same at 29, that's silly. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like don't you want to grow? Don't you want to be with this person that you guys are growing together? You don't want it to be, you know, here we are, 19 and whatever, young, early 20s and or even later, doesn't matter. Even if you get married in your 30s or 40s, I don't care. You want to be able to grow.
Is that a common thing that you'll see that someone at 29, 30, 40 plus, like they just all of a sudden want to revert back to their teenage immature days and go out and party?
Sometimes, kind of like a midlife crisis. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen it before. Yeah, I've definitely seen it before. Um and sometimes it scares their partner like a lot. It's a little scary and a lot of times there are children involved. Like it's just yeah, I've seen it happen that people if they're a little bit too repressed when they were younger or whatever it was and they're like, "Oh, I'm just going to like do everything now." It's like a little I don't know. Yeah, yes, midlife crisis is definitely a thing.
Okay. What is something most or many couples may struggle with a relationship, but they're too scared, taboo. Like everyone thinks that they're going through it alone. That nobody's gone through this before. Like a common problem that like they don't even want to admit it loud. It's taboo. It's scary.
I
It's embarrassing.
Right. Well, any type of sexual dysfunction stuff that typically ends up being super embarrassing, and or even infertility related stuff. Definitely, when it comes to guys, it's not spoken about enough at all. It's definitely something that's happening in our community, and it's kind of just like, oh, it's the woman. No, it's not the woman all the time. Like it could also be like guys have issues too. So that's definitely something. But to me, I find that the biggest issue right now facing the Jewish community is just being able to talk to each other. You don't want to, I'm not promoting like, let's scream out loud and have like rallies talking about intimacy. No, like not recommending it. There is a world where this needs to be sanua. It needs to be modest. There needs to be a world where that's a thing still, meaning that's a huge part of what we believe in as Jews, meaning that that we surround ourselves with a certain level of modesty. So I would never want that to be lost ever just because we're talking about things that are not necessarily things that are discussed, meaning any type of sexual issue is something that's hard for somebody to come to me with. Actually, not anymore. Now that people know who I am, they're like, oh, okay, she's heard it all. It's fine. So we don't talk about it openly like in a room with multiple people, but they'll sit with me one-on-one or sit with me on a Zoom and they'll explain it to me because, again, because of my PhD, I'm in the middle of finishing, I have that clinical background. So they're like, oh, okay, she's from, but she also knows the science part, like, fine. It's like the same thing as like going to a doctor. Okay. Like they're okay with it because they know that I have that clinical background. But again, I think it comes down to mostly communication between couples, even during things that are hard, even during things that are taboo. Communication.
What's maybe a sort of looking for a formula or a practice? I'm not getting the right word that you generally like almost like a litmus test that you'll suggest to couples, or even just or even not even suggest not even a litmus test, but just like here's a practice, here's a formula that you can do for you're struggling. Let's say whatever it may be. Let's say it's communication or something that you would like you can guide it whatever way you want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That is that like a formula or a method, or really not catching the right word right now?
So I think I get what you're saying. By the time a couple gets to me or finds my Instagram page or finds my anything about me, like things are already kind of not falling apart, but not spoken about. Like all these women, unfortunately, struggling with taras mishpacha, with family purity. No one's talking about it. Everyone's silently struggling, meaning guys are struggling too. I'm not saying that, something like this is easy for anybody. It's hard. It's part of what we do. And why do we do it? It's a chok. It's just a law. Okay, great. Thank you. Like, excellent. That doesn't make it any easier. So again, that would be something also, by the way, that we're all in the same boat, just like with paddles, like struggling around, trying to figure it out and like, trying to do our best, but it's hard.
If you were to give a piece of, like, in other words, I understand it's your parnasa, but if you were to give the world a piece of advice to not make it to your office, now I know you can say communication, but maybe break it down a little bit more. Like,
right.
What are the early telltale signs? What are the early things that couples should be working on off the bat, even if they're obviously, as you suggested, they should be seeing some level of counseling, but let's say they're not.
No, not even counseling. I think that if you want to start off a marriage in a way that's strong, like besides exactly what you shared before, that's what I was going to say. Besides just chassid and kala classes, like there needs to be a little bit more. There needs to be a little bit more. Like they're giving you this like kasuba under the chuppah, but they're not giving you like, here's how to have emotional availability. Like they're not giving you enough tools. No one is. They haven't been doing it this whole time. I have couples that are married a year and couples that are married 40. It's just, and again, I don't know where the disconnect is, and I don't know necessarily that, you're right. I can't have 40,000 clients. Like that would be insane. I don't even want to. I don't want to have that many. But again, I do think there's this global issue of just something's getting lost in the sauce over here. You know what I mean? People are taking halacha for what it is and not learning like the more deeper hashkafic thing of why this might resonate with me, or how do I use this to connect to my husband or my wife? Like no one's doing that. So that part is really hard. And that's part of something that I try to share, meaning I'm also a college teacher. I did that because more so for me to have like the halachos under my belt, even though I've been doing it, but halachos under my belt to make sure that like I knew what other people know. But I hear Chabad has a whole different mahalach. So like, okay, you can cut that out, but it's a thing apparently. And I'm able to use that kind of like, okay, I know basic halacha and deeper than basic. It was like a 20-week, it was like a six, it was crazy. It was like 20 weeks, 3 hours a week. It was a lot, and a test, and it was a whole thing. It was like harder than my PhD. It was a lot. And I'm able to use that to at least guide people and help people, or say like, okay, I know this halacha, but I really think you have to ask a Rav. Be able to like guide people to like, if not me, find somebody that you connect with, somebody, because I mean, you're also married. I think it's really hard when it's just you and your husband against the world, or me and my husband and my 10 kids against the world. That's hard. If I have no support, meaning, okay, we have our parents, we have our family, fine. But like, I'm not sitting around sharing my details of my marriage with my mom. I just think it's totally, some people will do that. I don't think it's healthy. Personally, I tell couples not to do that, to share intimate details of your relationship with your family. I just think it's like Lashon Hara. It's just talking negatively about your spouse. If you need to find the right person, and I'm not saying it has to be a therapist. It could be a rebbitzin, a rabbi, your chavru. I don't know. Not chavrusa. Maybe that's also like a little bit of a boundary. Some women are okay with that. Some women are okay with their husbands sitting with their friends and talking about them. I had that one. I know it sounds bizarre. I had that once. A wife said to me, I do not want my husband to talk to his mother about me. And he's like, okay, so can I sit in the base medrash and talk to my friend? She's like, sure. I was like, what? He shouldn't talk about you with anybody. He should talk to you about you. You shouldn't be talking. What? So again, to each their own. And the whole point of what I'm trying to do really is not to bring people into my office. You're 100% right. It's more so to try to spread the knowledge of We're all in this together. Family purity, taras mishpacha could be beautiful. It could also be hard, and it's okay. It's okay. Sometimes we have to do hard things in life to grow. I always tell clients this, that like, I usually have a bottle cap. That's what I usually use, but I can use this cup. Okay. So this cup, imagine you're sitting in this cup, okay? And one step outside the cup is growth. But outside this cup, it's not comfortable. Growth is not comfortable. Growth and change are not comfortable. But in order for you to keep moving forward in life, you have to be outside the cup at some point. And then eventually the cup gets bigger and bigger. As you grow, the growth space changes. But again, there has to be a world where you're continuing to grow and change, and like, otherwise what? You just stay. If you're staying stagnant, I'm sure you've heard this. If you're staying stagnant, you're moving backwards. There's no staying stagnant. Either you're moving forwards or you're falling backwards at some point. So you have to just keep moving forward and keep growing. And a lot of people are not going to want to keep learning. That's part of the issue too, is like, okay, I've been doing this thing for a while. I don't want to do it anymore. We'll just kind of, walk around with like blinders on and just pretend everything's okay. And that like breaks my heart too. You know what I'm saying? People that just don't get the help that they need because they're tired. They never got it to begin with. It's not even like a laziness thing or an access. I don't even think it's necessarily an access thing. Maybe for some communities it is an access thing, that they don't really allow, or they don't feel comfortable with having people come in to help or explain or talk to people. I've had that too. So like, it's just kind of, even for myself, like breaking this like shell around this concept to try to keep the people in the shell, but like maybe put some light in there. Like, it just feels like everyone's just like insulated in their little box, and it's not working, unfortunately.
So besides for, which I understand completely, the issues of the possible issues around the community in the Orthodox world around the marriage, what is something a new couple can do, like on a positive, like a doing, like not a not doing, like a.
Mm-hmm. I know what you mean. I get it.
Like,
you're good.
Losing me today.
You're okay.
Yeah, a positive thing.
Like an action.
Like an action that a new couple, secular, religious, can do off the bat that is going to help build the foundation. Maybe something they can keep checking up on, something that they can be looking at, or a practice, something in that world.
I would think that the most important thing for any couple is like checking in with each other. Like this whole concept of like date nights, like a lot of therapists say like, oh, have a once a week date night. Okay, great. But if you're going out and like sitting in a restaurant and looking at each other and not saying a word, that's stupid. Like that doesn't make sense. So I think having that gauge with your partner regardless of religious affiliation, of being able to kind of like check in with each other. Curiosity, I think, is really important in a relationship, not judgment. Meaning it's important for me as a therapist too, but kind of looking at your partner and being like, hey, like, is that what you meant? Like, I'm not sure. Because again, nobody can read each other's mind. That's the biggest issue, I think. I think that women, both honestly, it's not only women, but I see it a lot with women. They're like, I want my husband to take the lead and do the things and I should just follow. Okay. But if you're not telling him that, how's he supposed to know? Or what if he feels like he's worried you're going to feel like he's steamrolling you? If you've never had that conversation, or what if you've always been the steamroller? What if you're always the one that's talking and doing and this and that, and he just sits there and he's like, whoa, my wife's a powerhouse. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to step forward and also become who I need to be. So that dynamic also is a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like that's something that I think the most important thing would be for a new couple would be for them to just check in with each other and make sure each other are like, hey, you're good? Okay, great. How was your, like just basic conversation. How was your day? Was your day good? That stuff gets forgotten as you like move on through your marriage, your relationship. It's just like, it becomes like, oh yeah, you're here. Cool. I don't know. This person's just always with you and it's great. And you love them and you have kids together and everything just gets mixed up, and forgotten.
Do you believe that the gender roles, like this that you were kind of alluding to, the man has to have someone to lead and the woman, are they real? If so, to what extent? And if they are, I remember when I was in Hassan classes, and I'm not saying it's not a Jew, but the chassan teacher said that if the woman's wearing the pants in the relationship, you're going to be in trouble. I'm not saying it's true, but there is definitely this notion. To what extent could it be true? Could it
Well,
not
what do
be
you think he
true?
meant by that? Like, what, wearing the pants in what way? Meaning running the house? No.
No, of course not. No. What you were alluding to, that she's making the decisive decisions. He gave a lot of examples, but let's say she's the breadwinner. He doesn't believe that would be, things of that, or I can say the sole provider.
Right.
Like he doesn't, like, let's say the husband's Pill is a bit interesting because that is a work form. So take Pill out, more being that I believe that was more what he was alluding to. And I'm not even saying he was right or wrong. I'm just saying that there is definitely a notion of that, because I remember he explained it a little bit more. It was not too long ago. It was over 2 years ago, and he was obviously saying like there are certain levels of personalities. There's many guys also that in the world you meet them and they're a little bit more shy, they're a little bit more whatever.
Yeah.
But at home they know how to make the decisions. They know how to put the kids to bed. They know how to. They don't. They're not bossed around. I don't know if
No, I hear what you're saying. So yes, the concept, they call it polarity. That's like the new, like, I don't know if it's a buzzword, but that's what they're calling this whole gender role dynamic thing. I'm seeing it a lot. Do I believe in it? Not necessarily, just because I have the belief that if you channel each other in the right way, you can like both wear the pants. It can have equal polarity, which I think that's what that is. Because again, like even in my own marriage, I'm sure you have most people, I don't want to point at you, obviously, whatever most people have in theirs is that, their husband takes care of certain things, the wife takes care of certain things, and you come together and you figure it out as a team. So does this concept exist? I think so. Am I seeing it step forward more that women are in this space of that whole concept of wearing the pants? I see it. I definitely see it. Do I think it's necessarily healthy? I don't think women like it. I don't know if it's necessarily like a healthy or not healthy, and should men be the breadwinner and should women stay in the kitchen? Like, no, I think everybody should find their thing. For some women, their thing is being home and they're happy doing that and they feel good about that. I did that for many years until I, felt ready to step out of that. I'm not out of that space. I'm in that space, but, share that space with something else that I felt really, really passionate about. So I think that I think the light can be on both. Does that make sense? Like, I think it could equally, which I think that's kind of what the concept of polarity is. There are some people that take it, I'm sure you could find this all over social media, that take polarity to like the extreme, and like their wives sit at home and they're not like suppressed. I don't want to say they're suppressed. I don't know. I don't live with them. But their wives are at home. They do like the cooking and the cleaning and the this and whatever, and their husbands work. And for those people, that works. Those marriages work. I know for myself that I felt, and you should know, it felt really incongruent in me. Like, I was always raised to think, being a wife and being a mother is the most important thing you're ever going to do, etc. That's just how I was raised. And when I did that for many years, I got my degree because I felt I just wanted to. Even if I did nothing with it, I felt like it would help me in my life, in relationships and talking to people. But after I had my 10th, she was about a year, and I was like, how many more kids am I going to have to like fill this need that I have it's not working? And I felt very guilty about it. That whole concept of like, is being just a mother enough for me? And I'm not saying it's not. Don't worry. My plate is overflowing, Baruch Hashem, and it's really full and it's a lot. And I didn't expect, my career to take off in the way it has. So like that also, like this is supposed to be like a side hustle type of thing, not like a full-time job. It's become more of that, thank God. But that whole concept of like, is it okay if being a mother is not enough? I think that's where I don't believe in polarity. Because in polarity, they believe that like, oh, the woman, the only thing she'd want to do is be a wife and a mother, and that's what she should be doing, and that's her gender role, and she shouldn't be working. And no, I'm sorry, I don't want that. What if I don't want that? What if I don't want to be the female stereotype gender role? I don't want it. And my husband's okay with it, meaning he's like, yeah, go do your thing, like whatever makes you happy, go do it. And thank God, like it's been great. So could polarity work for some people? Maybe. I know people it doesn't work for, and it doesn't work for me.
Is there anything off limits? Meaning, there's anything that this is a man's role, obviously in a healthy home, so like not a single parent home, but this is the guy's role and this is the girl's role, and it would be unhealthy to swap that around. To give examples, whether it be that there's a flat tire on the car, is there room for the woman to go fix a flat tire? I'm not sure. Let's say, I don't know, let's say braiding the hair, but that's probably not an extreme, exactly braiding the daughter's hair.
Well, I have 8 daughters, so my husband makes some ponytails. Like,
Exactly.
he has to. The truth is, though, but I don't know. Baruch Hashem, I married a special guy. I wish he would come with me. He won't ever. He's like, I'm never getting on the camera. I'm like, okay, you'll get on that at some point. He's so hard. He doesn't want to. And he has his own thing, and he has his own job, and he runs his own company, and he's Baruch Hashem. But like, he's such a huge part of my life and how I've grown and what I've done. Like, that's what you need from a partner. Someone that's going to, I heard this concept actually because someone that works for me, I have a few people that work for me, the little Lubavitch, because the Lubavitches are the best. I mean, let's be real. But yeah, you can keep that in. You're good. He said something about the Rebbe saying something about the concept of like a flashlight and how a woman is meant to like siphon the flash, something like that. Like help their husband, capture their light, but be able to like focus it on things as opposed to just shining all over the place. So like, I think that could go in both directions, kind of. Like the woman can sometimes be the flashlight where the man siphons it, which I definitely have that in my marriage. There are definitely times where I'm like so excited about something and my husband's like, whoa, like just think for a second. Don't be impulsive and like think. He's the opposite, meaning that's why that when you said before, could any two people mesh together? No, I could not be married to myself. We would be crazy and all over the place and like it would be a mess. I have to be married to somebody like my husband who's more calm and grounded and quiet. It would never work. We would, I don't know. I don't want to say kill each other, but maybe. I don't know. I don't know what would happen. You know what I mean? It would just be crazy. So yeah, you have to find somebody that kind of complements your personality, but also, which is part's the hard part because you might not know until you're ready with them. Somebody that can help you find your strengths. It took time. And again, my husband couldn't help me find my strengths. All he could do was scaffold me and support me, which is the same thing in any spousal relationship and in any romantic relationship and friendships even. You can't really to help somebody get to their end goal. You kind of have to, you can support them through it. You can talk to them through it, but you can't like push them. I don't know. It's not going to work. It doesn't work in therapy either. It's a little frustrating.
Imagine. If you're comfortable, is there anything in your marriage that has taught you, whether it's therapy or to help people, or I don't want to say that you struggled with, but something that you've tried, tested, and proven?
Yeah, it's very interesting because it happens a lot. Something that I personally struggle with is bitachon. Personally, I've asked, I talk to people about it. I read books about it.
Let's translate it. Start from that sentence again and translate it.
Okay, something that I struggle with is faith, bitachon. Personally, that I kind of feel that when I'm going through a tough time, like, where are you, God? Hashem, where are you? Why aren't you helping me? You don't see that I'm struggling? I have to ask you for help? Like, what? Hello? You don't notice that, like, and there have been some very, very big things. We have one of our children was born with a heart condition. Baruch Hashem, she's fine. I mean, yeah. But it was just very, very stressful. And I find for myself, and other little things have happened, and it was interesting because it was almost like these types of things kept manifesting itself until I finally realized, like, you need to relinquish control a little bit. Like, there's no world where you can hold the control and hold tight of everything. And that's when I started struggling with the whole concept of, like, when is it enough? when is there enough effort? When is hishtadlus enough? And then you can let go and say, okay, like God, take the wheel. I'm good. So that was something personally I struggled with. And in my marriage, my husband does not. In the spaces where I struggle, he like shines. And I notice it it happens all the time, even to like the point of like a couple of weeks ago, I said to him, like, do you realize how much we compliment each other? It's weird. And I'm not saying we have a perfect marriage. We don't. Like we still, but we've learned, we still have heated arguments or things like that, but we've learned how to be constructively critical of each other without being mean. And I'm not saying all the time. I'm not saying 100% of the time I'm not mean and he's not mean. We don't also know how to be mean to each other. We've been together for a very long time. So you know how to do that. You know where the sensitive spots of each person are. That's why it's even more hurtful coming from somebody that you love. But that's something where I personally have a struggle with when I'm going through something hard would be faith. And he kind of is able to kind of like hold my hand through it and like support me through it and tell me it's going to be okay. And he's always right. It's always fine. Like in that way, he's always right. My husband's always right. You can keep that. So he can see it. But so in that way, typically, and this I find really across the board, the concept of worrying about something is usually worse than the actual event. Like you're sitting and like worrying and worrying and worrying and worrying. And then the thing happens and you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I just wasted all this time worrying. That was so emotionally draining. And again, it's not like it's more so for yourself. You're giving away your own emotional availability to this hard, stressful emotion. And then you're like, wow, that was a waste. So that I find a lot also in different forms.
Guilty as charged.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is something that you've noticed that a lot of times couples think, obviously without consulting, that they can fix it? Like, and this is like the go-to move. It's just easy, probably level of ignoring, of sweeping under
Avoidance.
Well, yeah, what is something, but if that's the thing, then you'll answer that in the question. What is it that couples often either try to do or revert to doing that ends up being so much more destructive?
So the thing that I find the most is the thing that I think is most destructive is the whole concept of sweeping things under the rug. Because here's what happens. Here's the rug, and here's the husband, and here's the wife, and the stuff ends up getting swept between the two of them. So then it just becomes this like huge mountain, and they're each on one side, and it's like, wait, like, how do we sweep out this mountain? Like if you never take a broom and clean it out and like talk about the things even though they're hard, when do you talk about them? You know what I'm saying? Like that's the whole problem. I definitely find a significant level of ignoring or waiting till there's never a too late when it comes to working on a marriage, in my opinion. There's never a too late. But they wait until it feels like an emergency. They wait until it feels like, wait, like this mountain is too high and we can't, no matter how much sweeping and mopping and cleaning we do, it's never going to be completely flat. And that might not necessarily be wrong. Meaning there are some things that stay in a marriage kind of as like a scar. They heal, but there's always a scar there. There's something there. And sometimes it's not necessarily negative. Sometimes, I don't know how you view a scar as positive, but sometimes you look at a scar and you're like, oh, like, yeah, that hurt, but like I grew from it. Or yeah, that hurt, but like I'm able to, I was able to do X. I don't know. But I can't think of a positive way to frame a scar.
Scar is a sign of healing.
Right. Exactly. So I'm saying like, I get a lot of couples that say, how are we going to heal from this? And I say, you're going to heal. It's going to be okay. The healing is going to start, but you might have a scratch or you might have something there because that's reality. You know what I'm saying? Like that you can't expect, and that's kind of why also I try to teach couples to speak to each other with constructive criticism, not just be like, I hate you, you're the worst. Really? Or like, I don't know. Just talk to each other in a way that like you would want to be spoken to, which that part's also really hard because the way that I like to be spoken to is different than the way this person likes or that person likes or my husband likes. They don't. That comes from like upbringing, personality, different things. I grew up in a loud house with sisters. My husband did not. He grew up in a quiet house. So it's just, different. And not screaming in a mean way, screaming like, hey, can you get me a towel? Just like screaming across the house type. So I grew up that way. He did not. So when I was doing that, he was like, what are you doing? Like, you're so loud. I'm like, what do you mean? I need her to get me that. And he's like, go ask her. Walk 3 feet and ask her. You're so loud. And I'm like, okay, it took 10 years, but I got it. Now we're okay. Sometimes I go back, but whatever. Yeah. So circling back, the carpet under the rug thing is a big problem. And you don't get a huge mountain when you sit and have open conversation with your spouse, whether it be with a therapist. Sometimes, a lot of times for me as a therapist, sometimes I become the mediator. Like, okay, I'll sit with the wife, I'll sit with the husband, sometimes separately, sometimes, and then together. I never like share things with one and then like, that's not how this works. Like, I'm not the person that's the sharer at all. But kind of like, I'll have one spouse say something to me that's hard. And they're like, okay, how do I share this with my partner? And then we come up with a plan. Here's how we're going to share this. Here's how we're going to make this a more safe conversation, or how we're going to frame it, like not frame it because I'm not trying to be manipulative, but say it in a way that the other person can understand. Because I'm 100% sure we've all been in situations where somebody said something and you were like, what? Huh? Is that really what you said? Did you really just say that out loud? Is this for real? And then you're like, wait, it can't be that they meant that. And then you just ask questions. Curiosity is like such a great tool in communication and in relationships. It's just a great tool. And trying to be like, curiosity and inquisitiveness, I guess, are the same, but just trying to like not get heated before, or get a big feeling before you actually know the situation. And I know that from personal experience, unfortunately. I let that get to me.
Do you believe in the 5 love languages? It's like completely, not really, somewhere in between?
I am also like a level 1, level 2 Gottman trained therapist, so I do believe in them and to a certain extent. I think there are some people that don't really have a love language. I think that's a problem too, meaning like, not a problem. It's fine if they don't have one. Meaning, I think that there are people that don't necessarily fall into the realm of those 5. Maybe there's other things I can't think of one right now. Maybe there's other things they might like, but that I've found a lot too, that a couple will have a disconnect, meaning one couple will, the husband loves gift giving. He loves getting gifts. And the wife just wants her husband to say, you're so pretty. I love you. Thank you. Like, and when they don't understand each other, like, but again, that also comes down to communication. He does not understand that his wife just does not want gifts. So I find, actually, this is a great point, I find that a lot of couples, a lot of people will try to love their partner in the way that's most natural to them, what they like. So let's say I like gifts, I'll try to give my husband gifts because that's what I like, because it's easiest for me. But what if he likes words of affirmation, or he likes acts of service? And then I'm giving him gifts. He's like, I don't want these. What are you doing? Like, it just doesn't, it needs to align. So yes, do I believe in them? Yes. Do I also think there are situations where they might not apply? Also, yes.
It's interesting. So just going back to the receiving thing, will you say though that, I'm not projecting.
You're fine. Go for it.
Would you say though that that although the husband does need to learn that the wife, her love language is
X.
Words of affirmation, that maybe the wife needs to understand that part of the husband's love language is to accept those gifts, even though she doesn't really care for it at the moment.
Yeah, no, that's a huge disconnect. I think that when it comes to the love languages, again, you have to live in a world where you have a level of understanding that, like, okay, like, I might not resonate with the fact that he likes gifts, but he likes it, so who cares? It's okay. Your spouse is allowed to like something that you don't like. It's okay. So yeah, do I think that that's also part of it, like being okay with your spouse's love language? Because as a husband, if your wife likes words of affirmation, you might be like, oh my gosh, this is so dumb. Every time she like sweeps the floor, I have to say thank you. Isn't that part of what she does? No, but it's not. Meaning it's maybe it's her job role, it's her gender role, maybe in some marriages, not in every marriage. But no, she wants to feel appreciated. She's not your housekeeper.
Is an argument ever? We have a couple more questions.
Mm-hmm.
Is an argument ever actually about the thing that's being argued, or is there always something deeper?
No, I think sometimes it could be a surface argument. I think sometimes arguments can be surface. Do I also think that if you have that mountain rug between you and your husband, that something's going to get poked? For sure. Meaning, if you have a whole walking around with a backpack filled with rocks of resentment towards your partner, it's going to get to a point that any conversation you have ends up getting heated because you're just upset. But do I think people can have surface arguments? Yeah. It can be a thing, but not with somebody that has a backpack filled of resentment. Definitely not. Or negative feelings towards their spouse.
Fair enough. We'll move on to a couple dating questions.
Mm-hmm. I haven't done that in a while. I haven't done dating in a while.
Okay. There's a big, almost debate amongst the dating coaches, dating scholars,
Mm-hmm.
if, and everyone's going to have their own take, but
Mm-hmm.
if checklists are a good thing or a bad thing.
Are checklists a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not sure, only because, as we talked about earlier, they change. Again, the checklist that you had when you got married should change 5 years after you get married, whenever that time is. Meaning, also sometimes these checklists, I mean, I think it depends on who guides you on the checklist. If it's like a young 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old girl who's making her own checklist and nobody's talking to her and she has nobody to kind of guide her through it for whatever reason, like even, or a young guy that has no one to guide them through, helping them navigate some of that, yeah, then I think checklists could be bad. But I also think checklists could be good for some people that just are looking for a certain type. But the truth is, I don't even know. It's such a hard debate. It's a good question just because you might not know what's right for you all the time. That's the biggest issue. And then it's kind of like then it comes back to that whole concept of like control versus like effort versus letting go and not having control. Effort versus letting Hashem take the wheel. Because 20 years ago, we weren't doing any of this. Like I guess there maybe were checklists in our head, but nobody was writing them down or giving out resumes with pictures. Like nobody was doing that. That's like a much newer thing. And do I agree with it? I don't know. Because I don't know if you could really, I don't know if there are too many people that have married somebody on paper or dated somebody on paper and they meet them in person and they're just like, what? Doesn't make sense. Or the opposite. I did not think, not me, but I'm saying somebody could say, I did not think I was going to go out with this guy because of this, this, and this on his resume, on my checklist. He didn't meet this box and this box and this box. But we went out and he was great. And it was so great. And maybe it just, I've seen it go in both directions because I do also counsel mostly girls with dating also. And I've seen it go in both directions where somebody will come and ask me, I'm not a dating coach. I have friends that are, thank God, that are amazing. But clients that will ask me like, what do you think? And I'll say, if you feel good about it, give it a chance. What's one date? See. But I actually had somebody ask me, like, I've been on, 4 or 5 dates with this guy and I don't feel a spark. He's such a great guy. I just don't know why I don't. That's a lot of dates to not feel a spark or feel anything towards somebody. That's a lot to not feel excited to want to be with that person. So I don't know. I don't know if checklists are good.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, people were doing it without it. So I don't know. We were doing things without a lot of things,
You can argue that were marriages better 20 years ago? I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I think so.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. I definitely
don't know.
don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I lost my train of thought. Go for it. It's fine.
Let's have a little fun with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about physical attraction.
Mm-hmm.
Is there room, right? A couple, secular, Orthodox, comes back from date 1
Mm-hmm.
and says, I really enjoyed my time. I don't think the other person is particularly bad looking. I just wasn't enthralled by their looks. But Not bad, not good. Is there room for physical attraction to grow? I guess is how I frame the question.
Yeah, after one date, I think there is definitely room for physical attraction to grow. I've had um, many people reach out and say that initially they were not physically attracted and that grew. Or, I don't know, things could happen. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like they didn't look as good as they could. Meaning one date, I don't think you should just say, if there's a space there where there's something, you feel good about the person, you had a good conversation. Like because again, there is a world where looks fade. When you're 80 and wrinkly and old, like you still want your husband. I mean, you hope by 80 that you guys have developed, a deep emotional connection, and that's why you're staying. That's why your guys are together. But again, like looks fade. So I don't think it should be someone's number one priority. And I do think that there's room for physical attraction to grow. If you've only been on 1 or 2 dates, but you feel some kind of spark emotionally, an emotional connection, I think that's more important than physical attraction for sure. For me as a therapist, for me as a wife, mother, per human being, like that's what I recommend to my kids.
I would even assume, you can tell me if I'm wrong in this answer
Yeah.
that way, that physical attraction can fluctuate in a marriage.
For sure. Physical attraction can definitely fluctuate in a marriage. If a woman gets pregnant, has a baby, she gains weight, she loses weight, her husband loses weight, she gains weight, there's stress caused, your looks, what if something happens? What if you get married and then God forbid, there's an accident or something and one of you gets gets a scar on your face. Are you getting divorced? No, you love this person. You still want to be with them because you've developed an emotional connection. You don't care about the scar. It doesn't bother you. It's okay. So that's part of it too. I mean, I do think that, I know actually that having physical attraction with no emotional connection or emotional intimacy, your marriage starts falling apart. And there are too many couples that are just, putting their heads down and staying together and then they wake up at 25, 30, 35 years married, their kids are all out of the house and they're like, oh, I don't want to hang out with this person at all. This is terrible. And then it's kind of like, what do we do? That's when I get the phone call. You know what I mean? That's when they're like, oh shoot, Can I ask you a different question while you're doing that? Why is the OL in Queens?
Probably because in 1950 it was the only Jewish cemetery, closest Jewish cemetery to Brooklyn.
That makes sense.
And then once the previous rabbi was buried there,
because that would have been convenient. I'm just putting it out there. It's like so
they
annoying.
should have just ripped up Kingston.
Seriously, they're doing it now. What are they doing? What are they even doing here?
Are we piping? I assume I have no idea.
Wooden pipes.
It's real disaster.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I agree. I wish it was closer. It used to not be so bad, actually. Like, I remember a couple years ago, 10 years ago, where it could take 25 minutes before the speed traps, before anything,
right.
Before too much traffic. It could take 25 minutes. Now you're looking at 40, 45 minutes.
No, it's so far.
It's real pain.
I don't understand.
It's a real pain.
Right.
Going back to the physical attraction thing for a second, I'm just curious. Those are all actual physical changes, which are really real. Pregnancies, weight loss, aging, stress.
Hair loss.
I'm almost curious is if the person, I think I know the answer, but if the person can look the exact same, right? 2 days later, if nothing changed, but something happened, you got into a fight, he pissed you off, they didn't do the thing that you asked them to, and quite literally the way that you look at them, they look different.
Yeah.
Is that real? I feel like I'm outing myself.
I get that a lot. Can your partner look different if they've hurt you, is what you're essentially saying. I think so. Yeah, I do think, and I think that especially if it's somebody, again, your husband or your wife or a close friend, even a sibling, like somebody that you're very, very close with, like kind of like says something to you or hurts you and like almost like physically cuts you in a way with their words. Yeah, I do think there's a world where you could look at that person and be like, wow, like you can hurt me in that way. That's really hard to feel. That's a hard feeling to feel. Do I think it also diminishes with, do I think it goes away? Yeah. Do I think like, I don't think you hold that feeling for so long. Once you, talk it out with the person, figure it out, whatever. If it's somebody you have to stay connected with, if it's your spouse, you want to stay connected with them, you have to figure out, that's the whole point of having constructive conversations and just saying like, what you just said really hurt me like a lot. I don't think you have to say like, I'm looking at you differently, because that's just like, okay. But I think that telling your wife or your husband, your words hurt me. That's a real thing. Words can really hurt people. So, even more than a physical punch or a physical hit, words can really hurt somebody. So yeah, I think that could cause you to potentially look differently at your spouse or your friend or anybody that hurts you. And I mean, I know for myself, at least, thank God not in my marriage, but there were definitely like some friendships that, for me at least, that there were things that were said that were, or done that were just too much, too painful, too much. And you try to talk it out with somebody, and then it's like, okay, we're getting older and that's part of life. And your priorities change. The check boxes change. Things shift. My friends step back, my kids come forward, my husband comes forward. That's just part of life. And my friends that understand that and resonate with that have the same situation. But again, it's kind of like making things a priority in your life besides your spouse. But back to your original question, yes, you can definitely see anybody, not just your spouse, differently when they hurt you. I mean, if you think about it, you could see anybody differently if they hurt you.
And vice versa.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, anybody could.
Okay, let's ask about settling. Is there a concept of settling while people are dating? And right, so everyone always says, "Don't settle, don't settle, don't settle."
Mm-hmm.
But then, are there people that maybe have unrealistic expectations, and what you're essentially telling them is to settle, but they're kind of unique? Okay, let's just I'll leave you with that, and you'll take it from there.
I definitely think that there are people that their expectations might be too high. This is not a popular opinion. That's fine. I definitely think there's a balance here. I think that we definitely live in a world right now where people are very particular. I'm not saying it's necessarily bad. I do think you should be picky to a certain extent. And I agree with the concept of not settling for somebody. I don't think that you should. Like, oh, I'm just going to marry the first guy I see. What? Like, why would you do that? Like, you definitely should try to find the person that you can connect with, the person that you think can help you, that you can help them grow and they can help you grow. That's a huge part of being in a marriage. It's your whole marriage. So, I just lost the initial question. Oh, what was the initial question? Settling. Okay. The concept of settling, I do think it exists, but I also think that I think everything in moderation. I don't think you should be so picky to the point where you're going on 0 dates. Like, at what point does this become a you problem and less an other people problem? If you're going on 0 dates because you're so particular, you're getting, I don't know, it's not even, I don't know what too many is. I don't have children in shidduchim yet, but 20 resumes a week, let's say. Is that even a lot? I don't even know. Is 20 resumes a week a lot? I don't even know.
Yeah,
that's a lot. Okay, fine. You're getting 20 resumes a week and you're saying no to 19 of them. Is it a you problem or a them problem? Like, at what point do you...
Usually it's no to 20.
Okay, but I'm saying, like, if you but do you know what I mean? Like, at what point is it like, maybe I should look at myself. Am I this perfect that I could be saying no to all of Crown Heights? Every single human being. Can I just say no to everyone? Do you know what I mean? And again, there is a world for you to find the right fit for you. I'm not saying that, but I just think at some point, like, when do you shift? When does it become more of like a mirror where you look at yourself and can see your flaws, as opposed to like a magnifying glass where you can see everyone else's? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
At what point? I don't know.
I like it. Okay, I think we're going to finish with this, which is just, is there a message, a mic drop, a hot take that you want to share? That's something that you just something that you want to get out there, and yeah, just either a hot or a story or
Thinking.
Yeah, take your time.
A hot take. Are we saying hot take for the Frum community or everyone?
Everyone.
I mean, again, I think a hot take would be like, talk to your partners, people. Stop talking to everybody else. Talk to each other. Look at your spouse or look at your boyfriend or look at your whatever, your significant other or your girlfriend and say what you need to say. Don't say it in a way that's mean, but when people don't talk to each other, there's no messages being across. So it's just like people walking around with these thoughts in their heads, hoping that this other person is just going to figure it out. By the way, as a therapist, I also can't figure it out for you. You're going to have to use words to tell me. I don't like smoke signal or like sign language or anything else. Or there have been times where I've had clients sit and draw me a picture. I'm not even kidding. I've had to do it because they just can't use words to talk to me. In the beginning, it takes time. So my biggest takeaway would be use words in the right way to communicate with each other. That's my biggest thing.
Well, that would be a question. If the words are being very hard, is there room to communicate in other ways? Write a letter.
Yeah.
Send a text.
There have been times. There have been times where I tell one spouse or both, send a text. There have been times where I've sent my husband a text. I did something or he hurt me in a certain way or whatever it was, and I sent him a text. There are times during the day where I'm back to back all day and like I literally send him an email. Hi. You have to, like, we do live in an age of technology. We do. And I do think that there's a world where we could use that to our advantage in a good way, in a positive way. We can also use it in a negative way. But yes, you can use communication besides verbalizing with somebody. But I think that concept is being a little bit lost of just regular words, talking to people, having conversations. I think that's getting a little bit lost with texting and emails and this. And I'm not saying I don't use it. I do, 100%. There's no world where I don't text 3,000 times a day and WhatsApp and emails. I do. But I do think that when it comes to a romantic relationship, for sure, there has to be a world where you have a face-to-face conversation, I think. Definitely.
And I would assume time and place would
Yeah.
be important also.
Oh, yeah. Meaning, again, when one partner is having, is super upset, even upset sad, like there's different versions of upset, right? So upset hurt, upset sad. Let's say upset hurt, but upset angry. Now would not be the time to be like, hey, can we have a chat? No. Like, yeah, read the room. Yeah, that would be a great thing to tell people. Everyone in the whole world, read the room. Everybody have social norms and understand that everyone has feelings here. Nobody here is a stone wall. So yes, communicate in a way that's effective to your partner. That would be what I'm trying to teach people. How to communicate with each other in the way the other person can hear. I struggle with it too. We all struggle with it. If I didn't, I don't know.
And what would that be?
Communicating with the way other people can hear? Mm-hmm. I mean, even just using thought before using words. Like not being so impulsive and just like thinking about sentences before they come out. And I am such a like criminal with this, like literally. And it took me a long time and a lot of mistakes and making a lot of people mad. And not as a therapist, as a human. For me to be like, okay, Lauren, it's time for you to maybe stop doing that. You're making people mad. And it's not good for you either. Meaning it doesn't feel good for the person either when they're being this like impulsive, saying these not crazy things, but saying things that are maybe, against the grain of what would be considered normal. Not crazy, but like a little bit like controversial, let's say. You don't always have to be that person. It's okay. Other people can be controversial too. You can just sit there and sit quietly and just enjoy life. It's okay. No one's going to like die if you're not controversial. I think people forget that too. Everybody just wants to be controversial these days. Can we all just chill? Can we just like live life and chill for like a hot minute? And then like you can go back to being controversial or even think about what you're controversial about. I don't know.
I like it. All right. I think that's a wrap.
Hooray.
Yes.
Good. I hope you got what you needed.
No,